So I'm a lighting designer. My name is Anukka Larsen, and I sometimes call myself also the cleaning lady of the night because I try to clean off the light pollution. I have about 22 years of experience in the field of urban lighting. And at the moment, I am the manager of the design studio unit in WSP in Finland. And about design studio, we have a team of urban design and also a team of lighting design. And the urban designers usually are very good in creating creating good-looking environments, and they do a lot of design manuals, and they find their ways through service design. And the lighting design team is mainly professionals of outdoor lighting design. And the design studio also, oops, I put on the camera, that wasn't intentional. Here are some reference pictures. We have a strong will to create these kind of pleasant and meaningful and also well-functioning places. And we do a lot of cooperation with our bridge engineers. And we also do branding and wayfinding and environmental art and light art. We do furniture design and lighting design. And we are 15 people, a team of industrial designers, graphic designers, and service designers. And the lighting designers have artistic or engineering background. And we do love to work together in these urban cases that we are every day handling. But let's go to the topic of today's speech about light pollution and responsible use of light, case Helsinki. First, I will go through the report of obtrusive light in Helsinki. It's a report that got finished a year ago. I will give you an overview of the study carried out, and then I will give you an example how this light pollution prevention has been done in one concrete planning project. Tram line from Kalasatama area to Pasila. And the last part will be time for questions and comments. But the client, Helsinki, it's the capital of Finland, and it's the biggest city here, and it has about 660,000 inhabitants. And Helsinki is actually a member of LUCI Association, or it's a network of cities of urban lighting. So if you're interested, take a look at LUCI Association. Helsinki is down there with 3 other cities that create the capital region, and in that area it's about 1.5 million people living, and that's almost 30% of the whole population in Finland, because that's like 5.5 million nowadays. So most of the lights and also the people are located on the southern part of Finland. Just to give you some basics about light pollution and obtrusive light. Obtrusive light is the light directed above the horizontal level and to directions that they are not needed. It causes irritation, it's unpleasant, and makes it difficult to see essential information. And the light pollution is the sum of the harmful effects of artificial light. It's light that is unnecessary for comfort or safety, and it has an impact on nature. What kind of impact it has to our environment? It has some environmental damage to plants and insects and animals. And in plants, it's visible in changes in their growing season. And on insects and animals, it's mainly a reduction in habitat, the area where they live, and that can lead to a decline of population. And if we think of humans, the excessive light amount can have health effects, mainly through melatonin flow. If it doesn't flow enough, there might be a cancer risk. And if we look at this topic on an international scale, the International Dark Sky Association, IDA, they have identified different types of light pollution, which is sky glow, glare, and light trespass. And this association has been operating already since 1988, so this is an old problem. And there are already 195 dark sky places around the world. So you should check that out also. IDA and IES has published this kind of a usual table that gives out 5 principles for responsible outdoor lighting. And these 5 are very crucial, and we can quickly go through these. All light should have a clear purpose. All light should be directed only to where needed, targeted, right? Light level should not be over too bright, and the light should always be controlled. And we prefer warmer colors rather than colder colors of light. So all these sum up in the sentence that the right amount of light in the right place and at the right time. But let's go to the report on obtrusive light in Helsinki. The study aimed at finding out which kind of lights disturb people for real. And we also wanted to categorize the obtrusive light types. We wanted to define the exact need of planning guidelines. And we wanted to suggest real concrete actions to decrease the problems that have arisen at the moment of obtrusive light. And we wanted the city to enhance the cooperation with the other stakeholders. And this picture over here is a take on from our survey questionnaire that we published in the beginning of the study. There was 1,500 participants answering the survey, and they gave us almost 4,000 notes on the map, and also quite amount of open comments. And all these were very useful when we did the field studies to look what is the light pollution like in Helsinki. Here are some pictures: sky glow above the city, glare from the street lights, 2 bright media screens. That's probably the problem in every city nowadays. And the area lighting that goes too far from the area, or the light flowing to the sea areas, or just glare in different places. The private yard area lighting is a problem because it's not regulated and it can be quite glary. And the public yards, like schools and kindergartens, they should be very high quality, but often they're not. And they are also consuming a lot of energy during the nighttime. Light clutter is the difficulty of seeing in your environment if there is construction sites and media screens and stuff like that. And also the creative methods of illuminating commercial areas or office parking areas. And I would say that all the traffic lights in Helsinki, for example, are really bright, and the sports area lighting, they're quite often next to the darkness areas that are used to be held dark. So during this study, we wanted to give the city planning instructions so that they can share it forward. And here's an example of yard lighting. So poor lighting and good lighting, just to underline the problem that also good lighting can happen in these normal situations of housing areas and streets. And we also did a harbor area lighting example, and you can read these texts later on from the handouts. We don't go into that too deep. One problem that got bigger during the whole process was these media screens, so we wanted to give planning instructions for that also. And the main sentence that we share out, the most important one, was that the LED screens should not illuminate its surroundings, because lighting designers are supposed to do that, design the lighting for the square or the area. And we did some measurement tests, and we proposed luminances that the city could use and communicate these forward to the owners of these screens. And here on the picture, the pink screen was 3,000 candelas per square meter. So that's a very bright luminance. And this screen should be 175 according to our measurement tests. And bigger screens than that should be 120 candelas, and smaller ones, like on the street level, they can be like 200 candelas, like on the bus stops and places like that. And these recommendations are only for the screens that are located in the city center and some regional or business centers where they have a lot of light. In other areas, the luminance must be considered separately because we didn't do tests all the way through the whole different areas of the city. But these numbers are now published as part of Helsinki's instructions for advertisers. And therefore, these key innovations that I think that this report gave to Helsinki. Number one are the lighting design principles and planning instructions, just the ones that we saw earlier for the media screens and for the yards and harbor areas. And then we kind of took a map and we looked at Helsinki and divided the different areas of Helsinki into environmental areas. And these E-classes, where's the table from? They limit light that is directed to the sky and to the properties, like to the windows of apartments. And all these different areas of Helsinki have now their own E-classes defined, so that E4 is quite often the city center, and E2 is the rural parts of the city. And actually, this is quite simple. By obeying these values of E-classes, the obtrusive light can be eliminated to a great extent. So lighting designers kind of need this table in their design phases. And third thing was follow-up measures for different departments of the municipality, and that was quite a long list, and we are going to go through those. It's introduced on the next pages. Follow-up measures for the municipality. Yes, this is in Finnish, so I will explain it to you through translation. These light yellow boxes mean that these are tasks for outdoor lighting department that handles public areas like streets and the squares and parks. And these yellow boxes are for a department that is handling outdoor lighting outside public buildings. These white boxes over here are all to-do list for the building permission authorities. And this gray box over here, it's a sports areas authorities to-do list. And the black box here is for the administration people. And let's go through these. Outdoor lighting public areas department, they kind of wished for a steering group for lighting to add the communication between different departments. And they also kind of missed a strategy for lighting that could also have material about obtrusive light and light pollution. And we suggested that they should add these E-classes to the online map of the city, just to make sure that all the designers get their hands on the material. And the things that have already been done, it's in here as screen. They have a short web guide on cutting the obtrusive light, and they already updated the planning instructions for urban lighting with this information that we found out during this study. And the outdoor lighting department for public buildings, they should make outdoor lighting planning instructions, because they are totally lacking. So nobody knows what's the light level for schoolyards, for example. And there's a list of concrete problems that they should fix instantly. And both of these departments, they should be contacting cooperators and communicate about this problem and make them understand that there are things to do. And building permission authorities has quite a lot of things to do. They have already updated the instructions for advertisement in public areas, which is really, really good with the numbers of luminances. And at the moment, they are updating the building regulation order that also has information about the advertisement luminance levels. They should be updating the lighting instructions for private areas, like private plots, all of them. And to do that, when they have the updated instructions, they should be guiding the planning, but they need more resources for that, and also education for personnel to understand more lighting. And they also need to develop the permission process so that bad lighting doesn't go through. And we thought that it would be good for people to have a possibility to complain about obtrusive light in the municipality's feedback system. And also they need to contact their cooperators to communicate about this problem. The sports area authorities, they are supposed to also create lighting planning instructions for sports areas, because these are usually quite glary in the surroundings. And the administration, they should be communicating to the cooperators and sharing knowledge about the issue, and that the Helsinki is paying attention to this topic. So report on obtrusive light in Helsinki has key takeaways, which are listed here. There might be others if the viewer is different, but these are the most important ones for me. And I think the Helsinki is showing already an example of designing and implementing good lighting. Cities in overall should guide stakeholders to design good lighting and how to limit obtrusive light. And the city should have a monitoring system to comply with the guidelines. And nowadays it's very helpful because modern lighting technology does help to control the lighting better than ever before. And not to forget the nighttime urban aesthetics and the feeling of safety that is very important for city dwellers. That's also coming from the quality of light. And we'll go into the case of tram line from Kalasatama to Pasila. And there there was used this kind of a SQL, International Evidence-Based Sustainability Assessment scheme. And that SQL was giving us rules that we had to look at the project and see what is the occurrence of light pollution in the project and how it could be avoided. And we did some guidelines, and these aimed at controlling the obtrusive light throughout the whole project, like from all the planning phases to construction phase and to the operation phase. And the materials that were created during the report on obtrusive light in Helsinki, it was very helpful in creation of these guidelines. And the picture in the middle here on the right side shows us the light calculation that we did. We looked at the E-classes, what is for that area, and we looked that the light doesn't go to the sky too much and to the apartment windows. And we also got a chance to make the design for the construction sites, the illumination of the sites, and also to the streets around the construction sites. And they are also inspected regularly. And there is a quote from the lighting manager of City of Helsinki, and she mentioned that the light pollution is one of the easiest environmental pollutions to remove. Yes, I agree. And it requires planning of even better lighting and goal-oriented design control, careful implementation, and the correction of problems that have already arisen. So fix your problems if you have caused it, and that's really important point. So I'm in the end of my presentation. It took us 2 years to do the study of obtrusive light in Helsinki, and now I try to squeeze it into 20 minutes, but I wish that you got an overview, and thank you for your attention. And if you have any question, then I'm really happy to answer those questions or hearing the comments that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anuka, for a fantastic presentation. Really impressive to learn about the case study from Helsinki. Just some housekeeping items before we get going. So the presentation slides are available to download in the handout box, and also you can log your questions for the Q&A in the question box. I will start with the first question. Okay. How do we establish a balance in the need for light, for example, for safety, and the constant evaluation to reduce light and pollution?
Yes, in the public areas, if the lighting is designed according to the standards that have a lot of information also about obtrusive light, we don't have a problem because the light levels aren't very high if it's done according to the standards. The problem is outside the public areas, like the private yards and places like that, where no regulations are used. Just shortly.
Thank you. The next question, did the study take into account the light pollution caused by the reflected light or direct light only?
We didn't do very exact measurements like how much light is polluting the sky. We did make some measurements of how bright the sky is with this measurement tool, the name I can't remember at the moment, but you aim at that towards the sky and it will tell you how much light pollution is on the sky at the moment. And that, of course, is taking account the reflected light. And reflected light is actually one of the biggest problems because if there is too much light, and the light is reflected from the white surface, for example, it's almost as glary as a glary luminaire that you have. So yes, yeah, we did take that in consideration also.
Thank you. What, in your opinion, is the main obstacle for designers to implement smart lightings to reduce light pollution at night?
Smart lighting, I think old-fashioned clients, because smart lighting isn't too expensive anymore, so nobody can't kind of consider that an obstacle. And I think LEDs are very easily controllable, so that would be just crazy to install LED luminaires without control system nowadays. But of course, private buildings, they think of only the money issue, so there it can be a problem.
In your opinion, should we have a law on light pollution?
Yes, we always dream about that. And in France, they have a law. In Czech, they have a law. And I think some parts of Italy, they also have a law. And I think that before that is happening in Finland, for example, we need to guide cities, to guide the to help them to guide the problem, to make the light pollution smaller before we get the law, because that's a big thing.
Thank you. There's a question here. Should all the relevant international lighting standards and guidelines establish mandatory light pollution reduction norms, or is it already something that exists?
Well, I actually think that it already exists, because if you look at the lighting standards for outdoor workplaces, for example, that's one of our biggest sources of information when we are thinking about obtrusive light. And yeah, I think there is already information quite a lot. It's just the problem of the clients. They don't ask for it, and some of the designers are not educated too well about that yet. And that's why we need to talk about this problem and make the design process easier. And also the light calculation programs are still a little bit old-fashioned in this sense that we can't calculate light pollution very well.
Thank you. What can other cities learn from the obstructive light study done in the city of Helsinki?
Well, it is quite extensive. I think it has 80 pages, so you can kind of look at examples of what kind of light pollution different cities, the different areas of Helsinki have. But I still think that every city is different because in my hometown, that would be different. But I think there are some overall issues that you can kind of share to your colleagues and try to enhance the discussion about the light pollution problem in their cities.
Thank you. The next question is about the survey that you conducted. What was the most annoying light for people who answered to the obstructive light survey?
Of course, most of the people complained about the media screens, but in the open comments I think most people that described annoying light, it was always the light that comes through your window. So they didn't complain about when you're walking on the street and that light is really glary or that street light is really glary. Most of the people were annoyed of the light coming through their living room windows or their bedroom windows. And that's really something that is also regulated in the standards in the E-classes, and we should look at that problem more closely.
Thank you. Has the studies changed your lighting planning method and principles?
Oh God, I kind of wish that you don't ask that question because I also work as a lighting designer and I do facade lightings, for example, that might also add light pollution. But because the purpose of lighting can be variously, also aesthetic lighting can have a purpose. So therefore, it's always a struggle between, am I causing more light pollution or am I making this world more beautiful with the lighting? And I've forgiven myself and I'm trying to explain that the problems are somewhere else than in the designs of real lighting designers that really look at the lighting from different angles and try to make the lighting end result so that it's not glary or giving out light to the sky.
Thank you. I will take the last question. In this part of it's a bit it's a comment and a question, so just bear with me. In this part of the world, it is a bit of a challenge to convince the authorities on bringing down the brightness level on signage, advertising, and media screens. So just a general idea, was it hard to convince the public authorities to reduce the CD on, I think it's square meters, say on media screens as an example? Have they been convinced?
Yeah, because they were there. We got a chance to dim down the media screens to a certain level because actually lighting designers communicate, like, for example, we recommend this 200 candelas per square meter as the luminance, and the screen owners, they communicate with nits, N-I-T-S, and that's the exact number. So it was really easy to communicate with the advertisers because I told them that this screen has to be now 200 nits, and they understood it immediately. And then we measured it with the luminance meter at the same time. So the people from the city were there and they saw what it looks like when it's 200 and 175, which was the medium size, and the lowest is 120. So it's all kind of accepted because they saw it and we think it's okay. But the advertisers don't use it yet because it's not mandatory for them. Nobody's running after them, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a comment, fantastic insight. Thank you so much. So thank you, Annika, for a fantastic presentation. Thank you for sharing with us this amazing project. And thank you everyone for joining today. Please feel free to follow up with Annika via the contact details shown on the screen. So have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.